What kind of note could make a man walk away from everything? His wife, his children, his royal heritage. This wasn't just any man. It was Prince Harry. And it wasn't just any note. It was the kind of secret that doesn't just rattle a marriage. It detonates it. It was a crisp morning in Montecito. The kind where California light filters in like silk, gently warming the sprawling Sussex estate nestled in the hills. Birds chirped lazily. The kettle whistled. All seemed calm. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. But inside those quiet walls, something had just been found. Something small enough to fit in the palm of a hand, but powerful enough to shatter an entire royal illusion. A folded piece of cream stationery, hidden away in Meghan Markle's jewelry box, tucked beneath a Cartier bracelet Harry gave her for their anniversary. The handwriting? Familiar. The message? Devastating. And the moment Harry read it, something in him cracked. He didn't speak. He didn't shout. He just stood there, silent, still, his knuckles whitening around the edges of the paper. You might be wondering, what could possibly be so damning? So intimate? So unforgivable? That's the thing. It wasn't just the words. It was what they revealed. Because this wasn't just a letter from the past. It was a blueprint. A confession. A betrayal hiding in plain sight. And what makes this even more explosive? The timing. The subtle, almost imperceptible signs leading up to this moment. The cold glances. The stiff smiles. Meghan showing up alone to events. Harry looking lost. We've seen the pictures. The rumors have swirled. But now, it seems, we have a trigger. The smoking gun tucked beneath diamonds. Let's rewind. Because you have to understand how we got here. What led to that quiet moment of discovery? What led to this? The moment Prince Harry looked into the face of his marriage and asked himself, have I been living a lie? It began innocently. A misplaced charger. Meghan was out for a walk. Harry, looking for his AirPods, ducked into her dressing room. Now, most people wouldn't think twice about snooping. But this wasn't just any man. This was a husband who'd defended his wife against a kingdom, who'd burned bridges with his family and homeland to start anew. He wasn't the jealous type. He trusted Meghan. Or he thought he did. The drawer stuck. He tugged. Something shifted. A click. And then, there it was. A small velvet box. Not the kind used for everyday jewelry. This was older. Worn. He recognized it. It had belonged to Meghan's grandmother. Or so she'd said. Inside were a few rings, some old trinkets, and one envelope. Unmarked. He almost didn't open it. But then, curiosity. The note inside was short. Handwritten. No date. No signature. But unmistakably personal. It referenced a moment, a place, and a decision. One that, if true, unraveled everything. But here's where it gets strange. Because the moment Harry read it, his mind didn't just go to the content, it went to the feeling. That sinking feeling he'd had for months. The way Meghan would pause when certain topics came up. The way her answers, once free-flowing and playful, had become rehearsed. Scripted. And now, here was the script. Right in his hands. Now, you might be thinking, what's so special about one note? In a world where paparazzi sell lies for headlines, why would a simple piece of paper hold such weight? Because this wasn't tabloid fodder. This was private. Real. A raw piece of a puzzle that Harry didn't even know he was assembling. And worse, it suggested Meghan had been assembling her own puzzle, one that didn't necessarily include him. So why now? Why is this moment, this discovery, so important? Because the cracks in their public image are widening. Fast. Meghan's solo Netflix appearances. Harry's absence from major Sussex-branded ventures. Whispers of separate lives. Rumors of secret meetings in LA hotels. Paparazzi catching her with a man who wasn't Harry, just a friend, they say. But what if this note proves it wasn't just a friend? What if this note is the keystone in the archway of deceit? What if the fairy tale was already over, and Harry just hadn't realized it? Let's be honest. This isn't the first time Meghan's past has come back to haunt her. From estranged family members to anonymous insiders, the walls have always whispered. But this isn't a whisper. This is a scream. And it's Harry who's hearing it. Finally, sources close to the couple say this isn't just about jealousy. It's about trust, integrity, the core of their vows. And this note, though small, unravels that core like a pulled thread. Think about it. The man who gave up royal titles, military honors, and ancestral duty for love, now finds that love has been built on. What exactly? A facade? A secret? A lie? There's a reason the press hasn't gotten this story yet. There's a reason we're only hearing murmurs from insiders and security staff. Because this is nuclear. And if true, it means we're about to see the implosion of one of the most dramatic marriages in modern royal history. Remember when they stood under that umbrella in the rain? Meghan in blue, Harry beaming beside her. That viral photo. That perfect image of unity. Now imagine that same couple in separate rooms, speaking only through intermediaries, avoiding each other at public events, and fighting over custody. Because that's what's at stake here. Not just a marriage, but a family, 2 young children, a legacy, a reputation already bruised by scandal. Harry is many things: emotional, protective, impulsive, but he's never been cruel. So if he's thinking divorce, if he is the one walking away, you know it's serious. But here's the kicker. The note might not even be the worst part. Because when he confronted Meghan, when he finally held it out to her and asked, "What is this?" her response wasn't fear or guilt. It was cold, calculated, like she'd been expecting this day to come. And that's when the real spiral began. That's when Harry realized this wasn't a sudden betrayal. This was premeditated. And what came next would change everything. But no one saw it coming. What if the person you loved the most had been planning for your heartbreak all along? Prince Harry had always prided himself on intuition, instinct, that sixth sense inherited, perhaps, from his late mother, Princess Diana, the ability to see through the press, the performance, the politics, to the truth. But on that day, in the heart of Montecito, surrounded by the quiet hum of domestic peace, he realized something devastating. He'd been blind. It started, as so many earthquakes do, with something small. The charger was missing. He'd left it in Meghan's dressing room the night before. No big deal. She was out with the kids. A walk around the garden, maybe a juice run. Just long enough for him to poke around and retrieve it. But something pulled him. You ever get that feeling? That magnetic tug toward a spot in the room. Like your subconscious knows something your conscious mind doesn't? That's what happened the moment Harry stepped inside. The room was immaculate. Of course it was. Meghan was meticulous. A place for everything and everything in its place. The smell of jasmine lingered, her signature scent. A photo of the kids framed on the vanity. A pair of sunglasses carefully perched beside a glass ring holder. Normal. But then, there it was. The drawer. Slightly ajar. He reached for the charger, but paused. It was subtle, but something about the way that drawer stuck out just a little further than the rest. It felt off. He tugged gently. Stuck. He pulled harder. The wood groaned. Something clicked, and suddenly the drawer slid open, revealing a velvet box pushed into the back corner. You know how certain objects feel charged? This one practically hummed. It wasn't a jewelry box he recognized. Not one he'd given her. And Meghan, as he knew, rotated her jewelry seasonally. Displayed neatly, alphabetized by brand. This box was old, slightly scuffed on the edges, worn like something handled often, then hidden. He opened it. Inside, a few antique rings, a silver necklace, an old hairpin. And beneath it all, a folded note. No envelope. No label. Just the weight of secrecy wrapped in paper. He stared at it. For a long time. Then, he opened it. It wasn't long. Just 6 lines. Handwritten. Slanted script. Familiar. The kind of handwriting you don't forget. Especially when it belongs to someone you thought was gone. The first line read, "It's almost time." The next, "You know what we planned." And the 5th, "He still doesn't suspect a thing." Harry stopped breathing. It was like ice slid into his spine. Who was he? What was planned? And why? Why was this hidden beneath jewelry he never knew existed? He read it again and again, hoping the words would change, hoping he misunderstood. They didn't. The truth hit harder with each pass. This wasn't a love letter. It was a code, a signal, a whisper of something premeditated. And then came the 6th line. Just one word. Soon. His stomach twisted. He reached out to the vanity to steady himself. The room didn't spin, but his life did. That's when the internal voice started screaming. Who wrote this? When did they write it? And why the hell was Meghan still keeping it? Now pause for a second and put yourself in his shoes. You've left your home, your royal family, your military honors, everything you knew for love. You faced the British press, death threats, isolation, ridicule, all in the name of protecting your wife. And now this. A note, suggesting it had all been part of a plan, that you were the pawn. Harry blinked. His hand trembled, and something else surfaced. A memory. Months ago, late at night, Meghan had been in the bathroom. The door cracked open. He saw her with the same box. She didn't notice. He assumed it was sentimental jewelry. But what if that moment wasn't innocent? He clutched the note tighter. His mind raced. Images. Flashbacks. Her dodging certain questions. Her disappearing for hours. Her phone always flipped face down. The cryptic texts she said were from stylists. The calls she took outside, bad reception, she claimed. At the time, he'd brushed it off. Now, it felt like a trap he'd walked into willingly. But then came the worst realization of all. The handwriting. He knew it. And if he was right, it wasn't Meghan's. It belonged to someone from her past. Someone she swore she hadn't spoken to in years. Someone whose name she wouldn't even say out loud. A man Harry had asked about once. Just once. And her response? A long silence, followed by, he was never important. But now, here was his handwriting. In her drawer. Beneath her jewelry. With words like, soon, and he doesn't suspect. What would you do? Would you storm out? Shout? Call your lawyer? Harry didn't. He sat. Still. Shaking. And then, he took out his phone. He snapped a photo of the note. He closed the box. He put it all back exactly as he found it. Because right now, he wasn't ready to confront her. He needed to watch. To wait. To see if she would mention it. And when she didn't, that's when he knew. She was hiding something. The rest of the day passed like fog. Meghan returned, cheerful, laughing with the kids, asking about dinner, planning their next event. All normal. Too normal. Harry played along. Smiled. Nodded. But he watched her every move. Studied her phone. Logged her tone. Every word. Every glance. He analyzed with surgical precision. That night, he couldn't sleep. He lay in bed beside her, staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathe, wondering if she was dreaming of him, the man behind the note, wondering if their entire love story had been staged. And somewhere between midnight and dawn, Harry made a silent vow. He would find out everything. Because this note wasn't just a warning. It was a door into a world he wasn't meant to see. And once opened, it couldn't be shut again. But what he found next, what he saw in Meghan's eyes when he finally showed her the note, would change the game entirely. What do you say to the woman you left your entire life behind for, when you're holding proof she may have betrayed you from the beginning? Prince Harry didn't sleep that night. Not really. He lay stiff under the linen sheets of their California mansion, staring at the shadows dancing across the ceiling, replaying every conversation he'd ever had with Meghan. Every glance. Every moment that once seemed loving but now pulsed with doubt. And Meghan? She slept like a child. Peaceful. Warm. Oblivious. It infuriated him. He had always defended her. Against the media. Against his own family. Against logic. Because that's what love does, doesn't it? It blinds you, muffles the alarms, and convinces you to believe in the best, even when the worst is staring you in the face. But that note. That 6-line note hidden beneath a bracelet he gave her on their anniversary. It didn't just make Harry suspicious. It split him in two. By morning, he'd made his decision. He wouldn't explode. Not yet. He wouldn't give her the satisfaction of watching him unravel. No, he'd present the evidence. Quietly, directly, with surgical precision. Let her explain it away if she could. Let her look him in the eye and lie. The kitchen was bathed in light. Their chef had already come and gone, leaving behind a spread of berries, yogurt, and green juice. Meghan was standing at the island in a cream silk robe, sipping from her favorite mug, M, painted on one side in gold cursive. She looked effortless, like nothing in the world was wrong. But everything was. Morning, she said with a casual smile, not even looking up from her phone. Did you sleep? Harry's jaw tightened. Eventually, she glanced up, sensing something. You okay? That was the moment. He reached into his hoodie pocket, pulled out the folded note, now slightly crumpled from a night of clenching, and laid it gently on the counter between them. Her eyes dropped to it, blinked, stayed still for a beat too long. Then a smile. What's this? She asked, reaching for it. But Harry's hand landed on hers, firm, cold. Why was it hidden in your jewelry box? He said. No inflection. Just the facts. Meghan froze. The note stayed where it was. Her fingers retreated. She looked up at him slowly, that unreadable actress expression creeping into her face. "Where did you find it?" she asked. "Don't do that," he said. "Don't answer my question with another question." Her lips parted, but no sound came out. He pushed forward. "Who wrote it, Meghan?" She stared at the note, then at him, then back at the note. Her next words came carefully measured. "It's old. Not what I asked. It's not what you think." He laughed, dry, bitter. "Really? Because what I think is that someone you claimed not to speak to anymore wrote you a message about a plan. One that I'm clearly not part of." Silence. Her eyes darted to the hallway, probably checking if the kids were near. "You're jumping to conclusions," she whispered. "Then explain it." She took a deep breath, collected herself. "It's not recent," she said again. "It was before everything." "Before what? Before the wedding? Before I left the only life I'd ever known for you? Before you convinced me we had to escape the royals to protect our love?" "That's not fair," she snapped. He stepped closer. "You lied." "No, you lied, Meghan." And then she cracked. "You don't understand what it was like," she said, voice rising. "I was alone, cornered. You think I had options? I had people offering me power, protection, visibility, and I needed to feel safe. Power, protection, visibility. Those weren't the words of someone in love. Those were the words of someone playing chess." His blood went cold. "Is that what I was?" he asked. "A move on the board?" She stepped back, eyes wide. "No, no, Harry. You were real. You are real. Everything we have. It's not fake." But now he was pacing. "You said you hadn't spoken to him in years. But that note was recent. The paper, the handwriting. I know his writing, Meghan." Her silence confirmed it. She knew he knew. And then came the shift. That moment where her face went from concerned to calculating. "Okay," she said. "Fine. Yes, it's his. But it doesn't mean what you think." "Then what does it mean?" A long pause. And then she said something that made his heart stop. "It wasn't about you." She meant it as reassurance. But it hit like a betrayal. "Not about me," he said, voice quiet now. "Dangerous." "Then who was it about?" Meghan opened her mouth, closed it, looked away. And right there, Harry saw it. The fear, the truth hiding behind her eyes. There was something else. Someone else. Another layer he hadn't even begun to peel back. "Say it," he demanded. But she didn't. She just whispered, "You don't want to know." "Yes, I do." She shook her head. But that wasn't a refusal. That was a retreat. A retreat from a truth so dark it could rip apart everything they'd built. Harry stepped back, the floor beneath him turning to glass. He'd expected anger, denial, tears. But not this. Not cold admission. Not strategic withholding. This wasn't a woman caught in a moment. This was a woman trying to control it. And that, more than anything, broke him. He walked away from the kitchen. From her. From the dream they'd built on sandy foundations. And as he stepped into the hallway, one thought rang louder than the rest. If this was the note, what else had she hidden? Because notes don't exist in isolation. They're part of a pattern. And he was about to uncover a pattern that stretched back years. And what he'd find next, just 2 rooms away, would make the note look like child's play. How many pieces of a person's past can you ignore before you realize you never really knew them at all? That's the question Prince Harry couldn't shake. He'd just confronted Meghan, shown her the note, demanded the truth. And in return, a half-admission, wrapped in silence. No apology, no explanation, just a whisper, "You don't want to know." But he did want to know. He needed to know. Because once you find one lie, you start pulling threads. And sometimes, the whole damn fabric unravels. He couldn't go back to sleep. Couldn't focus. Couldn't breathe without wondering if everything he believed about his wife had been an illusion. So he did something he never thought he would. He went digging. Not through her things this time, but through his own memories. Flashbacks. Conversations. Red flags that he'd pushed aside out of love, now screaming in hindsight. You ever look back at something and think, how the hell did I miss that? Harry was in that place. Because Meghan Markle's past wasn't just a closed chapter. It was a locked vault. And now, he was breaking in. Let's rewind. Back before the wedding. Before the Oprah interview. Before Megxit. Back to the days when Harry was just getting to know her. When everything felt electric, spontaneous, romantic. The kind of whirlwind love that rewrites your entire reality. He remembered their first trip to Botswana, her laughter around the campfire, the way she asked about his mother, held his hand when he spoke of trauma. But there was always something just beneath the surface. Moments when she'd clam up, stories she'd half finish, names she never quite explained. At the time, he chalked it up to modesty, privacy. Now, it felt like omission. Take her time at Soho House. It was supposed to be her social circle, hip, progressive, full of creatives. But who really were the people she spent time with there? Harry had heard whispers, names that carried weight in Hollywood, politics, even royalty. Some of them married, some of them dangerous, some of them still circling. One in particular, a producer, older, extremely well-connected, a man known for discretion and influence, someone who'd helped Meghan land introductions, brand deals, press coverage early on in her acting career. Harry had once asked about him, just in passing. Meghan had laughed. He's just a friend, one of many who helped me navigate that world. But now, with the note in his pocket, he remembered the look in her eyes when she said it. Too casual, too smooth, like a line rehearsed. Then there was the night in Toronto. They were newly dating. She had a gala event. He stayed back at the hotel. She got back late, dressed down in silence. Claimed she'd stayed for drinks with PR people. But her phone buzzed twice with the name, Ronan, no last name. When Harry asked, she just smiled and said, stylist. Except she didn't have a stylist named Ronan. He remembered checking once with her team and getting blank stares. And then there were the missing hours. In New York, in LA, even in London. Times Meghan would vanish. Hot yoga, she'd say, or a last-minute facial. But she'd return different, distant, slightly more calculated. At the time, Harry brushed it off. Everyone needs space, right? But now, he was haunted by what she really needed space for. He pulled out his phone and started scrolling. Messages from those early years. Voicemails. A photo of the two of them with a man named Julian, a friend from her past, who Harry had only met once. Julian had been odd, overly familiar, slipping into conversations with phrases like, back when we were wild, and she was always ambitious, mate. Harry thought it was just a joke. Now he wasn't so sure. He Googled him. Turns out Julian wasn't just a friend. He was part of a now-defunct modeling agency with ties to several elite clubs in LA and London. Clubs known for their exclusive clientele and discreet services. The kind of place where secrets are currency. And Meghan? She'd been on the guest lists more than once. Still, Harry needed more. He called an old contact, a journalist he trusted, someone who had done digging for him in the past, far from the tabloids. Tell me everything you know about Meghan's inner circle pre-2016, he asked. There was a pause. Then the journalist replied, Are you sure you want to open that box? Too late, Harry said. All right, the voice said. Then let's start with Soho House, and the name Marcus Anderson. Harry nearly dropped the phone. Marcus. Meghan's longtime friend. Confidant. The man who introduced them. He'd always trusted him. They shared drinks. Dinners. He thought Marcus was on his side. But now the journalist's tone shifted. Marcus knew everyone. Harry. Politicians. Tech billionaires. Oil heirs. And Meghan? She wasn't just part of the scene. She played it. What are you saying? I'm saying she had options. And you were the golden one. Silence. Those words clung to Harry like smoke. The golden one. Was that what he'd been? The ultimate prize? The crown jewel in Meghan's master plan? It sounded insane. Until you looked at the timeline. How quickly things moved. The curated press. The carefully crafted brand. The Netflix deals. The documentaries. The reinvention of Meghan as a global icon. All within months. All too perfect. Back in the house, Harry wandered into her office. It was empty. Quiet. He stood before a bookshelf, his fingers brushing titles. Then he noticed something odd. A thin folder, tucked behind a framed photo. Unlabeled. He opened it. Inside, printed emails. Old ones. From a Gmail account he didn't recognize. Correspondence between Meghan and someone named A.W. Short for? He didn't know. But the tone was personal. Cryptic. Lines like, timing is everything. He's closer than ever. Just a few more pieces to fall into place. One email ended with, Don't get soft now. You're almost there. Harry's skin crawled. This wasn't about a relationship. This was about a strategy. His phone buzzed. Meghan. Meghan, where are you? Everything okay? He didn't answer. He couldn't. He wasn't just suspicious anymore. He was sure. Meghan's past wasn't just complicated, it was deliberately buried. And the people involved? They weren't gone. They were circling, watching, waiting. And the worst part? Harry had invited them in. But what he would find next, in a hidden drawer behind her desk, would make the note and the emails look like mere breadcrumbs. Because the past wasn't done with Meghan. And now, it was coming for him. How many secrets can one person keep before the entire truth comes crashing down? That question wasn't just rhetorical for Harry anymore. It had become the defining obsession of his unraveling reality. Because every layer he peeled back revealed something worse than the last. A name, a meeting, a message, a smile that meant something entirely different in hindsight. And the worst part? It was all hiding in plain sight. After finding that cryptic email trail, messages between Meghan and a shadowy contact known only as AW, Harry felt the ground shifting beneath him. But it wasn't just the folder that haunted him. It was the unmistakable sense that everything in their home, his home, had been arranged, managed, even weaponized. He no longer felt like he was living with his wife. He felt like he was living inside her strategy. So he dug deeper. This time, not into her past, but into her present. Because betrayal doesn't just live in old letters and dusty secrets. Sometimes it hides behind smiles, schedules, locked phones, and carefully curated social media captions. You know what it's like to feel like something's off, but you can't quite prove it? That's where Harry lived now. Every interaction with Meghan was a performance. Every word carefully placed. And behind it all, silence. She wasn't asking why he was distant. She wasn't asking what he'd found. She knew. And that silence? That lack of panic? That scared him more than any scream ever could. The dual phone. What happens when the family you left behind says, "We told you so"? Prince Harry had always imagined that if things ever went truly wrong in his marriage, the last people he'd turn to would be the royals. His relationship with the firm was fractured, almost beyond repair. From the day he and Meghan stepped away from royal duties, there'd been a slow-burning war of silence, icy glances at funerals, cryptic interviews, and public jabs hidden behind sources close to the palace. But now, standing in his office, holding a collection of evidence that shook the foundation of his marriage, Harry found himself dialing a number he hadn't called in months. His father's. He didn't know what he expected. Anger? Condescension? A reminder that he'd burned too many bridges? But what he got was something entirely different. King Charles picked up after 3 rings. Harry. Just that. No title. No hesitation. Silence stretched. And then, the words fell out of Harry's mouth like glass. "I think Meghan's been lying to me. For years." There was a pause. Longer this time. Then Charles spoke again. "What did you find?" He didn't ask why Harry thought so. He didn't sound surprised. That was the first red flag. Harry's voice cracked. A note. Photos. Second phone. Messages. A list of names. Hidden travel. More silence. And then Charles said something Harry would never forget. "I warned you once, didn't I?" It wasn't cruel. Not mocking. Just tired. Heavy. Like a man who'd carried the weight of that truth far longer than he ever wanted to. Harry's heart pounded. "You knew?" "I suspected. We all did. We. William. Camilla. Even Anne." Harry clenched his jaw. "You never said anything." "You wouldn't have listened," Charles replied softly. "You were in love. And we wanted to respect your choice." "Respect? You exiled me." "No, Harry. You exiled yourself. We gave you the space you demanded. But we never stopped watching." That hit like a punch. Because it was true. He had left. And now, he was crawling back. "Is this why you cut off security?" Harry asked. Charles sighed. It wasn't personal. It was procedural. But yes, it played a part. Harry rubbed his temples. "So what do I do now?" For a moment, Charles didn't answer. Then, quietly, "You need to know everything. Before you act." "I already know enough." "No," Charles interrupted. "You think you know? But Meghan's ties go deeper than you realize." Harry froze. "What ties?" There was a rustle on the other end of the line. "Papers." A breath. Then Charles said, "Have you heard of the foundation list?" Harry's stomach dropped. That name had come up once before. Whispers at a private charity gala. A list of influential names tied together by money, secrets, and mutual protection. He thought it was just a conspiracy theory. Until now. What does it have to do with Meghan? Charles hesitated. She was on it. Before she met you. Or rather, she put herself on it. Harry's voice dropped to a whisper. How? Through Marcus. Through Soho House. Through her connections in Toronto, LA, and London. She wasn't just networking, Harry. She was aligning. With who? Charles said a name. Harry's knees buckled. Spencer Trask. The billionaire. The financier. The media mogul who stayed out of the headlines but controlled more of them than most people knew. Harry remembered him. He'd met Trask once at a fundraiser. Meghan had insisted they attend. She had been unusually nervous that night, over-rehearsed, hyper-aware of the cameras. Now he understood why. She was involved with him? Harry asked. Charles exhaled. He was a backer. One of many. But she was a favorite. Smart. Polished. American. Ambitious. He liked that. They all did. They? Harry echoed. Charles lowered his voice. The ones who fund the narratives. Who pick the faces for causes, movements, charities. The ones who spin public image like it's cotton candy. Meghan was their project long before she was your wife. Harry felt dizzy. So everything. The whirlwind romance. The global fascination. The Oprah interview. Even the Netflix deal. It had all been leveraged? Used? You're telling me. I was the branding opportunity, he whispered. Charles didn't answer directly. You were the access. To what? The monarchy? The bloodline? The children? Harry's fists clenched. And you knew? Charles replied softly. Not everything. But we started putting it together after the wedding. Especially after the Australia tour. Harry remembered that tour. How Meghan glowed in front of cameras. How she orchestrated crowd moments. How she outshined everyone, including Charles. The press had adored her. The palace had panicked. That's why you tried to contain us, Harry said bitterly. Charles didn't deny it. She wasn't playing by the rules. And neither were you. A surge of anger shot through Harry. You could have warned me. I would have listened. No, Harry. You would have defended her. Just like you always did. And again, he was right. But now it was different. Because this wasn't about tabloid lies or royal protocol. This was about deception. Intimate. Strategic. Years in the making. Harry's voice dropped. So what do I do now? Charles paused. Then said, come home. The words hit harder than they should have. Not visit. Not talk. Come home. A pause. And Meghan. Another silence. Then Charles said something that made Harry shiver. Be careful, son. You're not the only one she's playing. Click. The line went dead. Harry stood there, phone in hand, heart pounding. He had reached out for answers and received a roadmap of betrayal. His wife. His father. The list. The billionaire puppet masters behind it all. And through it all, one terrifying thread. Meghan had orchestrated her place in his life like a master conductor. And he'd been the perfect instrument. But now the symphony was falling apart. And someone else was about to enter the scene. A wild card. Someone from Meghan's past who knew everything. And they were ready to talk. What do you do when the one person who tried to warn you was the only one telling the truth all along? Prince Harry had no one else to call. After the bombshell phone call with King Charles. After hearing the phrase, the foundation list. After realizing he had likely been a pawn in a game much older and darker than he ever imagined. Harry stood frozen in his office, alone, shaken, and angry. But beneath that anger, a rising, gnawing fear. Because now, everything felt connected. The note in the jewelry box. The secret travel logs. The messages between Meghan and shadowy names like AW and Ronan. The foundation list. And the confirmation from his own father that Meghan hadn't just married him for love. She'd aligned herself with the crown before she even wore it. The only question left was, who else knew? And more importantly, who else had tried to tell him? That's when a memory snapped into place. A conversation he'd buried. Months before the wedding. Maybe longer. A private moment. Just him and Doria Ragland, Meghan's mother. They were in a garden. Somewhere quiet. Birds chirping. Lemon trees swaying in the breeze. He remembered the way she looked at him that day. Not with affection. With concern. It had struck him at the time, but he'd brushed it off. Now he couldn't ignore it anymore. Because maybe Doria hadn't just been cautious. Maybe she had known. And maybe, just maybe, she tried to save him. So he called her. She picked up almost immediately. Harry. Her voice was calm. Warm. As always. But he didn't waste time. I need to ask you something. And I need you to be honest with me. Completely honest. There was a pause. Then Doria said, I've been waiting for this call. The past was never buried. He didn't ask what she meant. He didn't have to. Because Doria, ever the composed woman, always the diplomatic presence in the background of Meghan's public life, was about to break her silence. And what she revealed would make Harry's stomach turn. "I love my daughter," she began. "Don't ever think otherwise. But I also know what she's capable of." Harry sat down, breathing shallow, waiting. "She's always been determined," Doria said. "She wanted more from life than what she was given. And that's not a bad thing, necessarily. But somewhere along the way, she stopped seeing people. She started seeing opportunities." Harry felt the sting of recognition. "She told me about you before you even met," Doria continued. "What do you mean?" "She knew who you were. She knew where you'd be. The charity events, the friend circles, the places you visited in London. She positioned herself." Harry. He blinked. "She planned our meeting?" I didn't want to believe it. But yes, Marcus helped. So did others. People who understood how to get her in front of the right cameras and the right man. He felt physically ill. "You knew," he whispered. Doria's voice cracked. "I suspected. But when I saw you two together, I thought maybe she'd changed. Maybe she'd found real love." "Did she?" he asked. Silence. Then, "In the beginning, I think she wanted to." That wasn't the answer he needed. He wanted a firm yes. Or even a no. Instead, he got a maybe. A window into a truth that was never clear, never stable, never safe. And it got worse. "I warned her once," Doria said, "that if she didn't stop treating people like chess pieces, she'd lose everything." Harry felt the ground slipping beneath him again. "What did she say?" "She told me, 'I've come too far to lose now.'" That line would haunt Harry forever. Not "I love him." Not "he's the one." Not even "I want a future with him." Just, "I've come too far to lose." As if he was the prize, not the partner. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, more hurt than angry now. "I tried, Harry. But you were glowing. Obsessed. You would have run straight back to her and told her everything. And then I would have been the villain." She was right. He would have. Because when he loved Meghan, he defended her. Blindly. Fiercely. And now? Now he was the one under siege. Doria paused, then said something that shook him even more. "There's something else." Harry braced himself. "A few years ago, I found something in her room. Back when she still lived in Toronto." "What was it?" "A journal. Notes. Plans. She had a whole vision board of who she wanted to be, where she wanted to go, what kind of man she needed by her side." Harry's voice cracked. "And she didn't just write Prince. She wrote your name." He gripped the arm of the chair so tightly his knuckles turned white. "She manifested me," he whispered. "No, Harry. She targeted you." The 5 chilling words. But it was what Doria said next that froze him. When I asked her about it, she said 5 words. Harry's heart pounded. "What words?" Doria's voice dropped to a whisper. "He won't know until it's over." Everything stopped. The birds. The breeze. Even time itself. He repeated it. "He won't know until it's over." A plan. A timeline. A finish line that Harry wasn't meant to reach. That was the moment he realized. She hadn't just kept secrets. She had constructed a narrative. One where Harry played the loyal husband until he wasn't needed anymore. And now? Now, she was done playing house. He thought of the note again. It's almost time. He still doesn't suspect a thing. Soon. And now Doria's confirmation that he had been the last to know. It all pointed in one direction. The end. But Meghan wasn't just planning an exit. She was orchestrating a legacy. And that legacy didn't include him. But Harry wasn't going to sit quietly. Not anymore. Because Doria had given him something no one else had. The truth. And now, he would use it. Because someone else was about to get involved. Someone whose name had been whispered in the shadows for years. A man Meghan thought she'd left behind. But he wasn't gone. And what he knew could destroy everything. Sometimes the truth doesn't scream, it whispers. And in Prince Harry's case, the whisper had been lying dormant in 6 handwritten lines. 6 lines that looked, at first glance, like a cryptic breakup. A coded message. Maybe even an emotional blackmail note from an ex. But now, after the conversation with King Charles, after the chilling call with Doria, after hearing those 5 words, he won't know until it's over. Harry realized something far more terrifying. The note wasn't emotional. It was strategic. A trigger. A signal. A memo in a larger operation. And Meghan? She hadn't just kept it. She'd preserved it, hidden it beneath sentimental jewelry, in a private drawer tucked behind the illusion of love and loyalty, which meant it mattered. It wasn't trash. It was active, still live, still in play. That's when Harry knew. He had to decode it. Line by line, word by word. The analysis begins. He took the note back out, read it under bright light. And this time, instead of reading it like a hurt husband, he read it like a soldier, a strategist, a man who knew what it meant to read between the lines when lives depended on it. Here's what it said. It's almost time. You know what we planned. Don't let him derail it. He's close, but not enough. He still doesn't suspect a thing. Soon. At first glance, the lines seemed simple, vague, maybe even melodramatic. But Harry knew better. He'd worked with military intelligence. He'd been trained to spot patterns, to recognize when words were masking intent. And this note was coded intent. He got on the phone, called someone he hadn't spoken to since Afghanistan. His old intel liaison. Codename, Barlow. Barlow, I've got a message I need analyzed. Urgent. Private. Verbal. No. Handwritten. Get me a photo. Harry sent it. 5 minutes later, Barlow called back. What are we looking at here? Harry asked. Barlow didn't miss a beat. This isn't emotional. It's operational. Harry froze. Operational. Yeah. Think of it like a mission update. A field report. Whoever wrote this isn't romantic. They're reporting progress. Harry's stomach sank. Barlow continued. It's almost time. That's a countdown marker, he said. They're on a schedule. Something's been set in motion. You know what we planned. That's a reference to an agreed objective. Implies collaboration. Pre-existing strategy. Don't let him derail it. Him is you, obviously. This suggests you've become a threat to the mission. He's close, but not enough. Classic assessment phrase. Means you're approaching the truth, but there's still ahead of you. He still doesn't suspect a thing. False sense of security. Likely a psychological tactic, meant to reassure the recipient that you're controllable. Soon. Final signal. Indicates imminent execution. Harry sat back in his chair, his mouth dry, his mind spinning. This wasn't a breakup note. This was a checklist. Barlow said what Harry couldn't. Whoever wrote this was part of a larger plan. And Meghan? If she didn't write it, she's complicit. Harry whispered. She kept it. Hid it. Protected it. Barlow nodded. Then she's in on it. Who was the author? The handwriting was still the key. Harry had assumed it belonged to a man from Meghan's past, maybe an old flame. Or a handler. Someone connected to the foundation list his father warned him about. But now, with the operational tone confirmed, it had to be someone more involved. Someone still active. He remembered something else. The handwriting style matched the old letter Meghan received in 2019, the one she claimed was from an old friend warning her about the palace. At the time, Harry had believed her. He never saw the letter himself, but she read it out loud. He remembered the phrasing, the cadence, the line that stood out. Don't let them get too close. Control the narrative. He grabbed his laptop, dug through the backup files, found a digital copy Meghan had accidentally synced to their shared drive. It was there. Same paper, same slanted cursive, same strategic tone, different year, same author. But here's what hit harder. That letter had been signed. A.W. The same initials from the earlier email folder he found in her drawer. The mysterious contact Doria had never mentioned. He did a search. Nothing came up. Then, finally, on a privacy-protected domain registry linked to a nonprofit Meghan had supported years ago, he found it. A board member listed as Alexander Wraith. No photo, no bio. But Harry had heard the name before. Not in public. In whispers. From security staff. From Palisades. From William. He's one of the fixers, William had said once. A manipulator. A ghost. You never see him, but you feel him. And if you see his name connected to anyone, be careful. Harry had laughed it off at the time. Now, he felt like vomiting. The deeper meaning. He looked again at the note, now not just as a husband, or even as a target, but as a potential scapegoat. What if the plan wasn't just to use Harry? What if it was to destroy him? Discredit him? Take everything. Brand, legacy, children, and leave him with nothing? What if the note wasn't just a status update? What if it was the green light? Harry stood, paced, heart pounding. There was one more clue. On the back of the note, something faint, a watermark, barely visible, But when held under a light, it revealed a single emblem, a lion and a falcon, intertwined. He knew that symbol. It was part of a private trust, one used by major donors at elite institutions, one Meghan had donated to under a pseudonym. The same trust connected to Soho House's deepest financial backers. It wasn't just a love affair. It was an operation, and Meghan was neck-deep in it. The last line, soon. Barlow called back. You need to leave. What? If the timeline is still live, and you're waking up to it, you might become the threat. Harry's jaw clenched. You think she'd hurt me? I think if you keep asking questions, someone will. That hit hard. Because now, this wasn't about a marriage. Or a royal scandal. It was about survival. Harry wasn't a husband anymore. He was a liability. And the woman he once trusted more than anyone might be preparing to bury him. But he wasn't going to be buried quietly. Because he'd just discovered something else. One last encrypted message buried in the photo metadata of Meghan's second phone. A message not sent to her, but from her, to a man he thought was long gone. And that message would rip this story wide open. How many lies can you stack on top of each other before the entire illusion collapses? Prince Harry was about to find out. Because just when he thought he had uncovered every dark corner, every hidden message, every clue planted in shadows, he opened one more drawer. A literal one. And what was inside would take this from betrayal to treason. It was late. The house was still. Harry hadn't slept in nearly 48 hours. His eyes were red, his beard unkempt, and his heartbeat never seemed to return to normal. After the decoding of the note, after the conversation with Doria, after discovering AW was more than a name, possibly a handler, an operator, a shadow agent. Harry was no longer just heartbroken. He was in survival mode. This was no longer about a marriage falling apart. It was about an operation unraveling in real time. And he was in the crosshairs. There was only one place he hadn't searched yet. Meghan's personal writing desk in her upstairs study. It had always been off limits. Not formally, but in that unspoken way couples establish boundaries. She used it for journaling, she once said. Vision boards. Meditation prompts. Gratitude lists. But now, Harry didn't believe in that version of her anymore. Because gratitude lists don't come with burner phones and coded messages. He walked into the room. Slowly, quietly. The scent of lavender and sandalwood hung in the air. Candles, neatly aligned. A Buddha statue in the corner. A copy of the 4 agreements on the side table. All part of the facade. All part of her brand. He sat down at the desk. Opened the top drawer. Empty. Second drawer. Pens. Stationery. Harmless. Third drawer. Locked. Harry froze. She never locked drawers. He ran his fingers along the edge. Underneath, a small indented panel. Click. It popped open. A hidden key, tucked neatly inside. She never thought he'd get this far. But here he was. And when he turned the key and pulled the drawer open, his entire body went cold. Because what he found wasn't just secrets. It was leverage. The folder. Inside the drawer was a black folder. No label. Just matte black leather, with a magnetic flap. He opened it. There were printed photos inside. Of him. Harry. Some candid. Some taken from afar. One from a private balcony in New York, when he thought he was alone. One from inside a closed-door charity meeting. One of him hugging someone Meghan had insisted he cut out of his life. Each photo was marked with dates. Times. Circled annotations. In red pen. Notes like, too friendly. Reposition him. Too close to W. Pull back. Remind him of press leaks. Trust erosion needed. It read like a control manual. On him. He dug deeper. Underneath the photos. USB sticks. Labeled only by date. He didn't dare plug them in. Not yet. But he knew what they were. Recordings. Of him. Of others. Of conversations Meghan wasn't even present for. Had she bugged their home? Then came the letter. Typed. Crisp. Clean. A draft of a legal complaint. From Meghan. Against him. Alleging abuse. Mental instability. Substance concerns. Erratic behavior. All carefully worded. All dated 3 months into their marriage. 3 months. She'd been preparing the nuclear option almost from the beginning. And he'd been making breakfast in bed, whispering sweet nothings, dreaming of their future. He put the letter down. Shaking. What kind of person does this? Then, his eyes landed on a familiar item. A small, dark green journal. Her journal. He opened to the bookmark page. And there it was, in Meghan's own handwriting. Soon, just a few more months. Once the second baby is secured, we can shift. Public sympathy won't wane as long as Harry plays the fool. If he breaks early, we pivot to victimhood. Either way, platform established. He nearly vomited. It wasn't a plan. It was a playbook. Every angle calculated. Every outcome managed. Even his reactions had been accounted for. He wasn't just her husband. He was the scaffolding beneath her empire. And once she didn't need him anymore, she'd demolish it, with him still inside. The email draft. One last document. A printed email. Never sent. Addressed to M.A. Harry's breath caught. Marcus Anderson, the man who introduced them. Her best friend. The puppeteer behind the curtain. The draft email read, "I've locked the documents in the usual place. If anything happens, release the package to Vanity Fair. They'll run it. Include the video, the statement, and the text thread. Use the control narrative subject line. Video, statement, text thread." He didn't even want to imagine what kind of story she had prepared. But now he knew. She was preparing for war. A war that would position her as the wounded mother, the misunderstood woman, the global brand who was betrayed by a broken prince. And Harry? He'd be left without kids, without credibility, without a platform. Exactly as planned. Unless he moved first. The realization. He put everything back. Locked the drawer. Replaced the key. Walked out of the room without a sound. Because now, it was no longer about confrontation. It was about strategy. He needed allies. Documents. Time. And one more thing. Proof of what she was planning next. Because that draft email, it was dated 3 days ago, which meant the release could happen any moment now. Unless Harry found out what was in that package she mentioned. But the clue came not from a drawer, not from a letter, but from a delivery. A sealed envelope, dropped off at their gate hours earlier. He hadn't opened it. He thought it was a thank you card from a friend. Now he wasn't so sure, because when he opened it, it didn't contain a message. It contained a single SD card, and what was on it would reveal the name of a man Meghan had sworn she hadn't spoken to in years. A man who just might be the true father of Archie. What do you say to the woman you left your entire life behind for, when you're holding proof she may have betrayed you from the beginning? Prince Harry didn't sleep that night. Not really. He lay stiff under the linen sheets of their California mansion, staring at the shadows dancing across the ceiling, replaying every conversation he'd ever had with Meghan. Every glance. Every moment that once seemed loving but now pulsed with doubt. And Meghan? She slept like a child. Peaceful. Warm. Oblivious. It infuriated him. He had always defended her. Against the media. Against his own family. Against logic. Because that's what love does, doesn't it? It blinds you, muffles the alarms, and convinces you to believe in the best, even when the worst is staring you in the face. But that note, that 6-line note hidden beneath a bracelet he gave her on their anniversary, it didn't just make Harry suspicious. It split him in two. By morning, he'd made his decision. He wouldn't explode. Not yet. He wouldn't give her the satisfaction of watching him unravel. No, he'd present the evidence. Quietly, directly, with surgical precision. Let her explain it away if she could. Let her look him in the eye and lie. The kitchen was bathed in light. Their chef had already come and gone, leaving behind a spread of berries, yogurt, and green juice. Meghan was standing at the island in a cream silk robe, sipping from her favorite mug, M, painted on one side in gold cursive. She looked effortless, like nothing in the world was wrong. But everything was. "Morning," she said with a casual smile, not even looking up from her phone. "Did you sleep?" Harry's jaw tightened. Eventually, she glanced up, sensing something. "You okay?" That was the moment. He reached into his hoodie pocket, pulled out the folded note, now slightly crumpled from a night of clenching, and laid it gently on the counter between them. Her eyes dropped to it, blinked, stayed still for a beat too long. Then a smile. "What's this?" she asked, reaching for it. But Harry's hand landed on hers, firm, cold. "Why was it hidden in your jewelry box?" he said. No inflection, just the facts. Meghan froze. The note stayed where it was. Her fingers retreated. She looked up at him slowly, that unreadable actress expression creeping into her face. "Where did you find it?" she asked. "Don't do that," he said. "Don't answer my question with another question." Her lips parted, but no sound came out. He pushed forward. Who wrote it, Meghan? She stared at the note, then at him, then back at the note. Her next words came carefully measured. It's old. Not what I asked. It's not what you think. He laughed, dry, bitter. Really? Because what I think is that someone you claimed not to speak to anymore wrote you a message about a plan. One that I'm clearly not part of. Silence. Her eyes darted to the hallway, probably checking if the kids were near. You're jumping to conclusions, she whispered. Then explain it. She took a deep breath, collected herself. It's not recent, she said again. It was before everything. Before what? Before the wedding? Before I left the only life I'd ever known for you? Before you convinced me we had to escape the royals to protect our love. That's not fair, she snapped. He stepped closer. You lied. No, you lied, Meghan. And then she cracked. You don't understand what it was like, she said, voice rising. I was alone, cornered. You think I had options? I had people offering me power, protection, visibility, and I needed to feel safe. Power, protection, visibility. Those weren't the words of someone in love. Those were the words of someone playing chess. His blood went cold. Is that what I was? He asked. A move on the board? She stepped back, eyes wide. No, Harry. You were real. You are real. Everything we have. It's not fake. But now he was pacing. You said you hadn't spoken to him in years. But that note was recent. The paper. The handwriting. I know his writing, Meghan. Her silence confirmed it. She knew he knew. And then came the shift. That moment where her face went from concerned to calculating. Okay, she said. Fine. Yes, it's his. But it doesn't mean what you think. Then what does it mean? A long pause. And then she said something that made his heart stop. It wasn't about you. She meant it as reassurance. But it hit like a betrayal. Not about me, he said, voice quiet now. Dangerous. Then who was it about? Meghan opened her mouth, closed it, looked away. And right there, Harry saw it. The fear, the truth hiding behind her eyes. There was something else. Someone else. Another layer he hadn't even begun to peel back. Say it, he demanded. But she didn't. She just whispered, You don't want to know. Yes, I do. She shook her head. But that wasn't a refusal. That was a retreat. A retreat from a truth so dark it could rip apart everything they'd built. Harry stepped back, the floor beneath him turning to glass. He'd expected anger, denial, tears. But not this. Not cold admission. Not strategic withholding. This wasn't a woman caught in a moment. This was a woman trying to control it. And that, more than anything, broke him. He walked away from the kitchen. From her. From the dream they'd built on sandy foundations. And as he stepped into the hallway, one thought rang louder than the rest. If this was the note, what else had she hidden? Because notes don't exist in isolation. They're part of a pattern. And he was about to uncover a pattern that stretched back years. And what he'd find next, just 2 rooms away, would make the note look like child's play. How many pieces of a person's past can you ignore before you realize you never really knew them at all? That's the question Prince Harry couldn't shake. He'd just confronted Meghan, shown her the note, demanded the truth. And in return, a half-admission, wrapped in silence. No apology, no explanation, just a whisper, you don't want to know. But he did want to know. He needed to know. Because once you find one lie, you start pulling threads. And sometimes, the whole damn fabric unravels. He couldn't go back to sleep. Couldn't focus. Couldn't breathe without wondering if everything he believed about his wife had been an illusion. So he did something he never thought he would. He went digging. Not through her things this time, but through his own memories. Flashbacks. Conversations. Red flags that he'd pushed aside out of love, now screaming in hindsight. You ever look back at something and think, how the hell did I miss that? Harry was in that place. Because Meghan Markle's past wasn't just a closed chapter. It was a locked vault. And now, he was breaking in. Let's rewind. Back before the wedding. Before the Oprah interview. Before Megxit. Back to the days when Harry was just getting to know her. When everything felt electric, spontaneous, romantic. The kind of whirlwind love that rewrites your entire reality. He remembered their first trip to Botswana. Her laughter around the campfire. The way she asked about his mother, held his hand when he spoke of trauma. But there was always something just beneath the surface. Moments when she'd clam up. Stories she'd half finish. Names she never quite explained. At the time, he chalked it up to modesty. Privacy. Now, it felt like omission. Take her time at Soho House. It was supposed to be her social circle, hip, progressive, full of creatives. But who really were the people she spent time with there? Harry had heard whispers, names that carried weight in Hollywood.